Aren't you tired of pushing to Git every time you want to test a change or validate that your code works? Well, in this video, I want to show you very briefly how we can transform your CI pipelines so that they run anywhere, even locally. What is CI anyway, if not a script runner? It's a glorified script runner. So you'd think it should be possible to run this anywhere, right? And really, if we break it down, what we're doing most of the time is testing, building, and deploying. You're going to write your pipeline in YAML. 90% sure it's going to be in YAML you're writing it in. The problem is that when you write it in YAML for one CI provider, like GitHub or GitLab, that code isn't runnable anywhere else. So you can't take that code and run it on your local machine. You can't take that code and run it on GitLab if you're running it on GitHub. And that's kind of a problem. Never mind, any sort of hostage situation of being tied to one CI provider. But the most important thing is your developers can't run these pipelines locally. And that causes a really frictionful loop when they're coding because they need to validate that their code works, but first they have to push it up to GitHub or to GitLab. Then they have to wait for the CI provider to provision the VM and for it to step through all of those processes. It's just another abstraction that gets in the way from the developer really feeling what their code is doing and where it's breaking. So instead of writing our CI pipeline in the YAML specific implementation of GitHub Actions or GitLab CI, which remember isn't portable, we're going to write it in YAML, yes, but fully portable using Garden. Okay, so check this out. This is some GitHub YAML I found on the internet and then spliced together with this integration test, but it's a pretty sure thing for what a classic pipeline would look like. Trust me, I used to be a DevOps engineer. So we're building, pushing the image, deploying it to IKS. I don't know what IKS is. It's an IBM cloud Kubernetes provider. That's fine. Doesn't matter. And then we finally run our integration test, which is really just a Kubernetes job, right? Well, check out my GitLab CI YAML. It's tiny, right? It's just Garden workflow, my workflow, and CI. Okay, but that's not the whole story. This is the whole story. This Garden workflow is doing the exact same thing as this, and the build step comes for free with Garden. It's deploying, it's checking if the images are built yet. It will rebuild and redeploy. Okay, so you might look at this and say, well, what's the big deal, Tao? All you did was rewrite one YAML into another YAML. Isn't it the same thing? No, it's not. And the reason why is because you can take this YAML pipeline that we just defined and you can run it anywhere across any CI system and locally. So that's the kind of power we're talking about with Garden versus using some proprietary CI system. Also, we're open source. Come visit us at app.garden.io and take us for a test spin. You can also use our fancy new ephemeral clusters that we just released. They're super fast, they're free. Just use them for whatever you want. So it's time to take power back from the CI providers, give it back to your developers. And if you want some more great arguments on why we should be creating agnostic pipelines, have a read of our product lead, Emanuela's. He wrote an amazing article on why CI is just a script runner, and it should be.